Close your eyes now and take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, drawing in the essence of our beautiful planet. Hold it gently for a moment, feeling yourself become lighter, as weightless as a cloud. And now release it softly through your mouth, letting all the tension and worry drift away like morning mist evaporating in the warm sun. Tonight, we're embarking on the most peaceful journey imaginable, a gentle drift across planet Earth, our home, the only place in the vast universe where we know life exists. You won't be traveling in an airplane or a spacecraft. Instead, you're simply floating. Consciousness itself, drifting on the softest breeze imaginable, high enough to see the magnificent sweep of landscapes below, low enough to feel the pulse of life all around you. Imagine yourself now, suspended in the gentlest current of air, about 1,000 feet above the surface of the earth. The sensation is like floating in warm water, completely supported, completely safe. Below you stretches a landscape of extraordinary beauty, rolling hills covered in emerald green, rivers winding like silver ribbons through valleys, patches of forest where ancient trees reach toward the sky. The air around you is neither hot nor cold but perfectly comfortable, carrying with it the subtle scent of grass and distant flowers. Take another deep breath and feel yourself sinking deeper into this peaceful drift. Planet Earth is the third planet from our sun, orbiting at just the right distance, not too close to be scorched, not too far to be frozen, in what scientists call the Goldilocks zone, where conditions are just right for liquid water to exist. This perfect positioning has made Earth a sanctuary for life, a blue oasis in the black void of space, and tonight you'll experience its wonders in the most tranquil way possible. The light around you is soft and golden, the kind of light that appears just after dawn or before dusk, when the sun sits low on the horizon and everything glows with a warm, peaceful radiance. You can see for miles in every direction, and everywhere you look, the earth reveals its quiet beauty. The planet beneath you is ancient beyond human comprehension, approximately 4.5 billion years old, formed from a swirling disk of dust and gas that coalesced around our young sun, gradually cooling and solidifying into the world we know today. The silence wraps around you gently, broken only by the whisper of wind and the distant calls of birds. Everything feels perfectly still, as though time itself is slowed to match your breathing. You're not in a hurry to go anywhere. You have all the time in the world to explore, to witness, to simply exist in harmony with this magnificent planet that has been home to countless generations of life. As you drift, you become aware of something profound. Earth is the only known planet where the surface temperature allows water to exist in all three states: solid ice, liquid water, and water vapor. This unique characteristic has shaped everything about our world, from the weather patterns that water the land to the oceans that cover more than 70% of the planet's surface. Water is the foundation of all life on Earth, and you can sense its presence everywhere, in the moisture of the air, in the rivers below, in the distant gleam of ocean on the horizon. You notice that you're drifting westward, following the gentle prevailing winds. The Earth rotates from west to east, completing one full rotation every 24 hours, creating our cycle of day and night. This rotation also causes the Coriolis effect, which influences wind patterns and ocean currents, creating the great circular flows that distribute heat around the planet and make life possible at all latitudes. But you don't need to think about the science right now. You simply need to feel the peace of moving in harmony with these ancient patterns, flowing with the breath of the planet itself. The landscape below is changing gradually as you drift. You're leaving behind the green hills and approaching a different terrain, a vast forest stretching to the horizon, an ocean of trees swaying gently in the breeze. The forest canopy is various shades of green, from the deep emerald of mature trees to the lighter, brighter green of younger growth. Here and there, a particularly tall tree rises above the rest, catching the light, standing like a sentinel watching over the forest floor. Everything feels perfectly still and peaceful. Your breathing has synchronized with the slow rhythm of the wind, each inhale bringing the scent of pine and earth, each exhale releasing you more deeply into relaxation. The earth supports you, holds you, welcomes you home. You're drifting now over an ancient forest, and even from your elevated position, you can sense the life thriving beneath the canopy. Earth's forests cover approximately 30% of the planet's land surface, creating vast green lungs that breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, making the air we breathe possible. These forests are among the oldest and most complex ecosystems on the planet, some individual trees living for thousands of years, their roots intertwining with other trees through underground networks that scientists are only beginning to understand. The forest below you is a temperate woodland, the kind found in regions with distinct seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You can see a small clearing in the trees where sunlight reaches the forest floor, illuminating wildflowers that sway in the breeze. The colors are soft and natural, purples and yellows and whites, nothing harsh or jarring, everything in perfect harmony. The sight fills you with a deep sense of peace. As you drift lower, descending gently until you're just above the treetops, you can hear the forest more clearly. Birds are singing, their melodies overlapping and blending into a symphony of natural sound. Earth is home to approximately 10,000 species of birds, each one uniquely adapted to its environment, each one adding its voice to the planet's song. The bird songs blend with the rustling of leaves, creating a soundscape that has soothed countless humans throughout history. The air here is rich with oxygen, fresher and cleaner than anywhere else. Trees, through the process of photosynthesis, convert sunlight into chemical energy, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen as a byproduct. A single large tree can produce enough oxygen in 1 year to supply 2 people with all the air they need to breathe. The forest beneath you contains millions of trees, all quietly performing this miraculous work, making the atmosphere breathable, keeping the planet alive. The silence between bird songs wraps around you like a soft blanket. Everything feels perfectly still, despite the gentle constant motion of wind through leaves. You notice that even though you can see the trees swaying, the motion is slow and hypnotic, never frantic or disturbing, always peaceful and rhythmic. This is the pace of nature, patient, unhurried, eternal. You drift over a stream winding through the forest, its water so clear you can see smooth stones on its bed even from above. Water is constantly cycling through Earth's systems, evaporating from oceans, forming clouds, falling as rain, flowing in rivers back to the sea, then evaporating again in an endless loop that has continued for billions of years. The water in this stream might have fallen as rain just days ago, or it might have been locked in ice for centuries before melting and making its way here. All water on Earth is ancient, recycled countless times, the same water that dinosaurs drank, that filled the first oceans, that sustains all life. The stream's gentle babbling sound reaches you, a peaceful melody that speaks of constant flow and eternal renewal. The sound is neither loud nor intrusive but perfectly balanced, a natural white noise that helps the mind settle into deeper peace, You could listen to this sound forever and never tire of it. As you continue drifting over the forest, you notice animals moving below. A deer steps delicately through the undergrowth, pausing to drink from the stream. Its movements are graceful and unhurried, perfectly adapted to this environment. Earth's forests are home to approximately 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, providing habitat for countless species of mammals, birds, insects, plants, and fungi, all interconnected in complex webs of relationship that have evolved over millions of years. Everything feels perfectly still and peaceful. The forest is alive with activity, yet none of it feels frantic or stressful. Each creature is simply doing what it has always done, following patterns established long ago, living in harmony with the cycles of the earth. There's something deeply comforting about this ancient continuity, this sense that life goes on, season after season, generation after generation, in rhythms as reliable as the tides. The forest gradually gives way to foothills, and you feel yourself being carried upward by a thermal current, warm air rising from the sun-heated land. The sensation is gentle, like being lifted by invisible hands, and you don't resist, allowing yourself to be carried higher and higher. Below you, the landscape is changing, the rolling hills becoming steeper, the vegetation thinning as altitude increases. You're approaching a mountain range, ancient peaks that have stood for millions of years. Mountains cover approximately 24% of Earth's land surface, formed by the collision of tectonic plates, vast sections of the planet's crust that drift slowly across the surface, sometimes crashing together with enough force to push rock miles into the sky. The mountains below you are old, their peaks rounded by eons of wind and rain, their slopes clothed in forests that give way to alpine meadows and finally to bare rock near the summit. The air grows cooler as you rise, but not uncomfortably so, just a pleasant freshness that makes you feel more awake and alive while simultaneously more relaxed and peaceful. The scent of pine is strong here, mixed with the clean smell of snow from higher elevations. Your breathing deepens naturally in response to the thinner air, each breath slower and more intentional, pulling you deeper into a state of calm. The silence wraps around you gently, broken only by the whisper of wind across stone. Everything feels perfectly still, despite the tremendous forces that created these mountains. Earth's tectonic plates move at the same rate human fingernails grow, just a few centimeters per year, yet over millions of years, this patient, persistent motion has built mountain ranges, open oceans, and reshaped continents. The mountains are monuments to the power of gradual change, proof that small forces sustained over long periods can accomplish the seemingly impossible. You drift along the mountain ridge, following a line of peaks that stretches toward the horizon. Alpine meadows carpet the slopes below timberline, painted with wildflowers in 1,000 shades, yellows and purples, reds and blues, whites and pinks. These high-altitude flowers bloom during the brief summer season, making the most of the short window between the melting of winter snow and the arrival of autumn frost. Their beauty is enhanced by its transience, a reminder that some of the most precious things in life are fleeting. A stream of meltwater cascades down the mountainside, creating a waterfall that catches the light, sending up a spray that forms a small rainbow. The sight fills you with peace. Earth's water is constantly moving, flowing from mountains to sea, evaporating into clouds, falling as rain or snow, freezing into glaciers, melting into rivers. This perpetual motion, driven by the energy of the sun, distributes water across the planet and makes life possible everywhere. As you drift higher, you notice snow on the peaks above you, pristine and white, unmarked by any footprint. Mountain snowpack serves as a natural reservoir, storing water during winter and releasing it gradually during spring and summer, providing a steady supply of fresh water to the lowlands throughout the year. Many of the world's great rivers begin as snowmelt in mountain ranges, their waters eventually reaching the ocean thousands of miles away. Everything feels perfectly still at this altitude. The wind that seemed constant at lower elevations is gentler here, just a soft breath that barely ruffles your consciousness. The sky is a deeper blue than it appears at sea level, due to the thinner atmosphere and less scattering of light. You can see farther in every direction, the curvature of the earth just barely perceptible on the horizon, a gentle reminder that you're standing on a sphere floating through space. The silence is profound here, a quality of quiet that goes beyond mere absence of sound. This is the stillness of high places, where air is thin and life is sparse, where the planet reveals its more austere beauty. Yet even here, life persists. Mountain goats navigate impossible slopes, marmots sun themselves on rocks, birds of prey ride thermal currents, all perfectly adapted to this challenging environment. Earth's life is remarkably tenacious, finding ways to survive and thrive even in the most extreme conditions. You begin to descend now, drifting down the far side of the mountain range. The change in altitude is gradual and gentle, like floating down a long, invisible slide. As you lose elevation, the air warms and thickens, becoming easier to breathe, carrying with it new scents, wild sage and juniper from the scrubland below. The landscape beneath you is a high desert valley, painted in earth tones, ochres and siennas, tans and browns, with occasional splashes of green where water reaches the surface. Desert regions cover approximately 1/3 of Earth's land surface, yet they're far from lifeless. These arid regions teem with specially adapted plants and animals that have evolved ingenious strategies for surviving with minimal water. You drift over a patch of desert vegetation, cacti standing like sentinels, their thick stems storing water against long dry spells, their spines protecting them from thirsty animals. The adaptations of desert life are fascinating yet soothing to contemplate: slow growth, patient waiting, survival through conservation rather than abundance. There's wisdom in the desert's approach to life, a lesson about making the most of what you have. The silence here is different from the mountain stillness, warmer, drier, more complete. Sound travels clearly in the thin, dry air, so you can hear the call of a bird from miles away, or the rustle of a lizard moving through the scrub brush. Everything feels perfectly still, suspended in the warm afternoon light that makes the desert glow. A dry riverbed winds through the valley floor, an arroyo that fills with rushing water during rare rainstorms but stands empty most of the year. Even here in this arid land, water shapes the landscape, carving channels that remain as evidence of its power long after it has disappeared. Earth's water is the great sculptor of landscape, working patiently over millions of years to create canyons, caves, valleys, and cliffs. As you continue drifting across the desert, you notice the way shadows lengthen in the afternoon sun, creating patterns of light and dark across the sand. The desert's stark beauty has a calming quality: its simplicity, its reduction of life to essentials, its wide open spaces that allow the eye to rest without distraction. There's something meditative about the desert's emptiness, its patient endurance, its ability to thrive with so little. The valley begins to deepen, its walls rising higher on either side as you drift between them. You're entering a canyon system, one of those geological wonders where rivers have cut through layers of rock over millions of years, revealing the Earth's history in striated bands of color: red sandstone, white limestone, black volcanic rock, each layer representing a different era in the planet's long story. Everything feels perfectly still between these canyon walls. The air is cooler here, shaded from direct sunlight, and you can smell moisture. Somewhere below, a river still flows, continuing its patient work of erosion. The walls tower hundreds of feet above the canyon floor, their surfaces sculpted by wind and water into fantastic shapes that imagination could interpret as anything: castle towers, organ pipes, curtains of stone frozen mid-billow. Earth's geological processes work on timescales that dwarf human experience. The rocks visible in these canyon walls are hundreds of millions of years old, formed when ancient seas covered this region, when life was still simple and primitive, long before the first dinosaurs walked the planet. Yet despite their antiquity, the rocks feel strangely present and immediate, their colors vivid, their textures visible and varied. The Earth is simultaneously ancient and eternally new, carrying its history visibly while constantly creating new features through ongoing geological processes. You emerge from the canyon into a completely different landscape, a river valley where water is abundant, where vegetation grows lush and thick, where life flourishes in countless forms. The transition is gradual but dramatic, the dry canyon giving way to cottonwood trees and willows, then to marshes and wetlands where water spreads across the land in a complex network of channels and pools. The river that carved the canyon widens here, its flow slower and more peaceful, its surface reflecting the sky like polished silver. Rivers are Earth's circulatory system, carrying water and nutrients from highlands to lowlands, from continents to oceans, connecting ecosystems across vast distances. This river, like all rivers, is on a journey from source to sea, a journey that might cover thousands of miles and take weeks or months to complete. As you drift lower over the wetlands, you can hear the rich soundscape of this watery environment, frogs calling in overlapping choruses, birds singing and splashing, insects humming, water gently lapping against muddy banks. Wetlands, which cover approximately 6% of Earth's land surface, are among the most productive ecosystems on the planet, supporting an extraordinary diversity of life and serving as natural water filters that clean pollutants from runoff before it reaches larger bodies of water. The air here is humid, carrying the fresh, clean scent of water and growing things. You can smell cattails and water lilies, mud and algae, all the rich organic scents of a healthy wetland ecosystem. The smell is not unpleasant but earthy and vital, reminding you that life on Earth depends on cycles of growth and decay, creation and decomposition, all interconnected in systems that sustain themselves through perfect balance. The silence between frog calls wraps around you gently. Everything feels perfectly still despite the abundance of life and motion. A heron stands motionless in the shallows, waiting with infinite patience for a fish to swim within reach. Its stillness is complete, a master class in quiet concentration. Watching the heron, you feel your own thoughts settling, becoming quieter, more focused, more present. You notice how the wetlands transition gradually into the river, with no clear boundary between them. Aquatic plants grow in the shallows, their roots in water, their leaves in air, bridging the two realms. Earth's ecosystems often blend into each other rather than having sharp borders, creating transitional zones called ecotones that are particularly rich in species diversity. As you drift along the river, following its meandering course, you see fish moving in schools just beneath the surface, their bodies flashing silver as they turn in unison. Earth's freshwater environments, though they cover only about 1% of the planet's surface, support approximately 40% of all fish species, demonstrating the incredible productivity and diversity of these aquatic ecosystems. Everything feels perfectly still and peaceful. The river flows on its ancient course, its path constantly changing as it cuts new channels and abandons old ones, meandering across its floodplain in loops and curves that grow and shrink over decades and centuries. Rivers are never truly static, they're dynamic systems in constant slow motion, reshaping the land through which they flow. The sun is lowering toward the horizon now, and the light takes on an even warmer, more golden quality. The river's surface glows, transformed by reflected light into a ribbon of molten copper winding through the green landscape. The sight is breathtaking in its simple beauty, proof that the most extraordinary experiences often come from witnessing ordinary things in the right light, at the right time, with the right state of mind. The river valley widens as you continue downstream, the land becoming flatter, the river slower and broader. You're approaching the coast now, the transition from river to ocean, where fresh water meets salt water in a complex mixing zone called an estuary. Earth's estuaries are among the most productive ecosystems on the planet, serving as nurseries for countless species of fish and shellfish, providing critical habitat for migratory birds, and protecting inland areas from storm surges and flooding. The air changes as you near the coast. You can smell salt now, that distinctive ocean scent carried on the breeze, mixing with the fresh smell of the river. The mingling of fresh and salt water creates brackish conditions that support unique communities of plants and animals specially adapted to varying salinity levels that change with tides and seasonal river flow. You drift over tidal marshes where cordgrass sways in the breeze, its golden seed heads catching the late afternoon light. These marshes are revealed and hidden twice daily by the rise and fall of tides, the effect of the moon's gravity pulling on Earth's oceans, creating bulges of water that move around the planet as it rotates. The tides have ebbed and flowed for billions of years, long before life emerged on land. Their rhythm is constant and reliable as the planet's rotation itself. The silence wraps around you gently, though silence isn't quite accurate here. There's the cry of gulls overhead, the gentle sound of water moving through marsh grass, the whisper of wind across open water. Yet despite these sounds, there's a quality of peaceful stillness, a sense that everything is exactly as it should be, following patterns established over eons. You notice birds everywhere, herons and egrets wading in the shallows, terns diving for fish, ducks floating in calm backwaters, sandpipers running along mudflats exposed by the receding tide. Estuaries and coastal wetlands serve as critical stopover points for migratory birds that travel thousands of miles between breeding and wintering grounds, following routes established over millennia, navigating by instinct, celestial cues, and landmarks passed down through generations. Everything feels perfectly still despite the constant motion of water and birds and wind. The tide is going out, slowly revealing mudflats where countless small organisms live, clams buried in sediment, crabs scuttling across exposed mud, worms leaving spiral patterns as they move. These small creatures are the foundation of the estuarine food web, converting algae and detritus into protein that feeds fish, birds, and eventually larger predators including humans. As you drift farther, the marsh gives way to open water, and suddenly you're above the ocean itself, that vast body of water that covers more than 70% of Earth's surface, containing 97% of all the water on the planet. The ocean is humanity's true birthplace in a sense. Life itself emerged in the sea billions of years ago, and all terrestrial life, including humans, carries traces of that marine origin in the salt content of our blood, which mirrors the salinity of ancient seas. The ocean stretches to the horizon in every direction, its surface gentle swells catching the light, creating patterns of highlight and shadow that shift and move in constant motion. Yet the overall effect is peaceful rather than restless. The ocean's motion is rhythmic and predictable, waves rising and falling in patterns that soothe rather than disturb. You're floating now over the open ocean, miles from any shore, surrounded by water that extends beneath you for thousands of feet. The ocean here is deep blue, almost indigo, with occasional patches of lighter turquoise where currents bring cooler water to the surface. The color changes as clouds drift overhead, casting moving shadows that darken the water momentarily before passing on. The ocean surface is gentle here, far from the turbulence of coastal shallows, rising and falling in long, slow swells that are mesmerizing in their regularity. These swells might have originated in a storm thousands of miles away, their energy traveling across the ocean as waves that gradually lose height but never stop moving, carrying energy from the point of origin to distant shores where they eventually break on beaches. The silence over the open ocean is profound. You're too far from shore to hear surf, too high above the water to hear the splash of waves against your consciousness. All you hear is the gentle whisper of wind, occasionally carrying the distant cry of a seabird. The silence wraps around you like the vastness of the ocean itself, immense, peaceful, eternal. Earth's oceans are constantly in motion, driven by wind, tides, and differences in water temperature and salinity. These movements create great circular currents called gyres that flow for thousands of miles, distributing heat around the planet and profoundly influencing global climate. The Gulf Stream in the Atlantic Ocean, for example, carries warm water from the tropics to the North Atlantic, making Europe's climate much milder than it would otherwise be at such high latitudes. As you drift, you notice a pod of dolphins breaking the surface, their sleek bodies arcing through the air before disappearing back into the blue. Dolphins are mammals like humans, breathing air and nursing their young, yet perfectly adapted to ocean life, capable of diving hundreds of feet deep and holding their breath for many minutes. Their appearance fills you with joy. There's something inherently delightful about dolphins, something playful and intelligent and alive that resonates with the human spirit. Everything feels perfectly still despite the dolphin's energetic movement. They're simply doing what dolphins have always done, following schools of fish, playing, communicating in their complex language of clicks and whistles that scientists are only beginning to understand. The ocean is full of such intelligence, such complexity, much of it still unknown to science. You become aware of the vastness beneath you. The ocean here might be 3 or 4 miles deep, containing an entire world of mountains and valleys, plains and canyons, all hidden beneath the surface. Earth's ocean floor is, in fact, more geologically active than its land surfaces, with new crust constantly forming at mid-ocean ridges where tectonic plates pull apart, and old crust disappearing into deep trenches where plates collide. The deepest point in Earth's oceans is the Mariana Trench in the Pacific, plunging nearly 7 miles below the surface, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. The sun is lowering toward the horizon now, transforming the ocean surface into a sheet of hammered gold where the light strikes it directly, while areas in shadow appear deep purple or black. The sight is indescribably beautiful, the kind of moment that makes you understand why humans have always been drawn to the sea, finding in its vast presence something that speaks to something deep within the human soul, a recognition of origins, perhaps, or simply an appreciation of sublime beauty. As the light continues to change, you notice the ocean's colors shifting from blue to silver to gold, each moment offering a different aspect of beauty. The Earth's rotation brings day and night, sunrise and sunset, the daily rhythm that has structured life on this planet since its formation. The transition from day to night is never abrupt but gradual, passing through this golden hour when everything seems to glow with inner light. The horizon ahead reveals something new, an island rising from the ocean, volcanic in origin, its peaks clothed in rainforest that cascades down steep slopes toward the shore. Earth has thousands of islands scattered across its oceans, each one a miniature world with its own unique ecosystem, often containing species found nowhere else on the planet. Islands are natural laboratories of evolution, places where life adapts to local conditions and takes unique paths, sometimes producing extraordinary examples of specialization and diversity. As you approach the island, you can see white sand beaches rimming its shores, palm trees swaying in the gentle trade winds, waves breaking in long, lazy lines that send foam creeping up the beach before sliding back into the sea. The sight is the epitome of tropical paradise, the kind of scene that humans have dreamed about since ancient times, representing peace, abundance, and escape from the complexities of modern life. You drift lower, descending until you're just above the beach, close enough to hear the rhythmic sound of waves, crash, hiss, pause, crash, hiss, pause, an eternal rhythm that has lulled countless humans to sleep over the millennia. The sound is one of nature's perfect white noises, masking other sounds while providing a peaceful, rhythmic backdrop that helps the mind settle into deeper states of relaxation. The sand beneath you is blindingly white, composed of tiny fragments of coral and shells ground fine by wave action over centuries. Coral reefs encircle many tropical islands, creating natural barriers that break the force of ocean swells and create calm lagoons perfect for swimming and exploring. Earth's coral reefs, though they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, support approximately 25% of all marine species, making them among the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. The silence between waves wraps around you gently. Everything feels perfectly still during those moments, the world holding its breath before the next wave arrives. Time seems to slow here on the beach, each moment stretching to accommodate perfect peace. The late afternoon light paints everything in warm tones, golden sand, azure water, emerald forest, all glowing in the sun's slanting rays. You notice the tide line on the beach, marked by a ribbon of seaweed and shells left by the last high tide. Each tide brings new treasures from the ocean depths, shells in countless shapes and colors, smooth pebbles worn round by wave action, pieces of coral, sometimes unusual objects carried by currents from far away. The tide also takes away, pulling sand and shells back into the sea, a constant exchange between land and water that has continued since the first oceans formed billions of years ago. The island's forest comes almost to the beach, tropical vegetation so lush and thick that the forest floor is barely visible beneath the canopy. Rainforests, which cover approximately 6% of Earth's land surface, contain more than half of all terrestrial species, making them the most biodiverse land ecosystems on the planet. A single acre of rainforest might contain as many tree species as are found in all of North America, along with countless insects, birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians, all interconnected in complex food webs that scientists are still working to understand. Everything feels perfectly still and peaceful here on this island beach. The only motion is the gentle sway of palm fronds in the breeze, the rhythmic waves, the occasional flight of a tropical bird. The island exists in harmony with itself and the ocean around it, a perfect balance maintained over centuries, proof that Earth's systems, when left undisturbed, achieve remarkable equilibrium and beauty. You feel yourself being drawn into the forest, drifting slowly between the trees, entering a different world, dim and green and alive with growth. The rainforest canopy towers overhead, creating a ceiling of leaves that filters sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. The air here is humid and warm, heavy with moisture and the rich scent of growing things, of flowers and decay and vibrant life all mixed together. The silence in the rainforest is different from other silences you've experienced on this journey. It's broken constantly by sounds of life. Birds call from the canopy, insects buzz and chirp, monkeys chatter in the distance, water drips from leaves. Yet despite these sounds, there's a quality of peaceful stillness, a sense that the forest has existed like this for millions of years and will continue unchanged long into the future. Rainforests are among Earth's oldest ecosystems, some having persisted in essentially their current form for more than 50 million years. They serve as vast storehouses of carbon, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it in wood, leaves, and soil. A single large rainforest tree might contain several tons of carbon, and the rainforest as a whole contains more carbon per acre than any other ecosystem on Earth, making these forests crucial for regulating global climate. As you drift through the forest, you notice the layered structure, the emergent layer of tallest trees poking above the main canopy, the canopy itself forming a continuous ceiling of leaves, the understory of smaller trees and shrubs, and finally the forest floor where light is scarce and growth is slow. Each layer hosts different species adapted to its particular conditions of light, moisture, and temperature, creating vertical diversity that adds to the forest's overall biological richness. Everything feels perfectly still except for the constant drip of water. Even when it's not raining, rainforests drip, moisture condensing on leaves and falling to the ground, maintaining the high humidity that gives these forests their name. Some rainforests receive over 400 inches of rain per year, creating environments where water is never scarce, where plants grow year-round without seasonal interruption, where life flourishes in forms and quantities difficult for humans to fully comprehend. You drift past a massive tree, its trunk rising straight and smooth for 100 feet before branching into the canopy. The tree might be hundreds of years old, having germinated from a seed when your great-great-grandparents were children, growing slowly but steadily year after year, adding rings of wood, reaching ever higher toward the light. Trees like this are anchors of the forest ecosystem, providing food and habitat for countless other species, their roots stabilizing soil, their leaves capturing sunlight and producing oxygen. The scent of flowers reaches you, sweet and intense, not quite like any flower you've smelled before. Many rainforest plants are pollinated by specific animals, bats, hummingbirds, particular species of insects, and they produce flowers and scents designed to attract their pollinators. This specialization has led to remarkable examples of coevolution, where plants and pollinators have shaped each other's development over millions of years, each one adapting to the other in an endless dance of mutual dependence. You drift out of the rainforest into open air, rising above the forest canopy until the island shrinks below you and once again you're over open ocean. But this ocean is different, cooler, greener, with a different quality of light. You're moving northward now, leaving the tropics behind, entering the temperate zone where seasons rule, where life must adapt to cold winters and warm summers, where plants lose their leaves in autumn and regrow them in spring. The ocean beneath you is rougher here, with white caps visible on the crests of waves driven by stronger winds. The water is a steely gray-green rather than tropical blue, and the air has a sharp, clean quality, carrying the scent of kelp and cold water. You're approaching a different kind of coast, rocky and dramatic, with cliffs rising directly from the sea, waves crashing against stone with tremendous force, sending spray high into the air. The silence wraps around you gently despite the crash of waves, which are distant enough to form a backdrop rather than an intrusion. Everything feels perfectly still in the way that powerful, repetitive motion can eventually feel still. The waves will crash here for millions of years, wearing away the cliffs grain by grain, the process so slow as to be imperceptible in a human lifetime but inevitable over geological timescales. You notice seabirds nesting on the cliff faces, gannets, puffins, murres, each species occupying its preferred niche on the rock, thousands of birds creating a raucous colony that returns year after year to the same cliffs, following an instinct older than human civilization. These birds spend most of their lives at sea, returning to land only to breed, their lives split between two worlds, equally at home on water and on stone. The coast curves ahead, and you follow it, drifting along above the water. Earth's coastlines, if you could straighten them out and measure their total length, extend for approximately 356,000 miles, enough to circle the equator more than 14 times. Every inch of that coastline is dynamic, constantly being reshaped by waves, tides, storms, and geological processes. No two stretches exactly alike, each one unique in its ecology and geology. As you drift, the rocky coast gives way to a sandy beach, then to coastal forest, then back to cliffs again. The variety is endless, demonstrating Earth's capacity for diversity within repetition, for creating infinite variations on basic themes. The coast is a boundary, a meeting place of land and sea, and like all boundaries, it's rich with interaction and possibility. Everything feels perfectly still as you continue northward, though you're actually moving quite quickly, covering hundreds of miles in what seems like moments. The sun is lower now, approaching sunset, the light taking on that peculiar golden pink quality that photographers call magic hour, when everything seems to glow from within, when ordinary landscapes are transformed into scenes of extraordinary beauty. Ahead, you see a broad estuary where a great river meets the ocean, its fresh water stained brown with silt eroded from mountains hundreds of miles upstream, mixing with the green ocean water in complex patterns of turbulence and flow. Estuaries are tremendously productive, supporting commercial fisheries and providing habitat for countless species, their importance to both nature and human economies far exceeding their relatively small geographic extent. You feel time shifting now, flowing like water, carrying you forward not through space but through time itself. The landscape below remains the same, but the season changes, from summer to autumn, and you watch as forests transform from green to gold and red and orange, a spectacular display of color that occurs every year in Earth's temperate regions as trees prepare for winter. This color change isn't merely decorative, it represents a sophisticated survival strategy. As days grow shorter and temperatures drop, trees in temperate regions begin to shut down their food production and prepare for winter. They withdraw nutrients from their leaves, breaking down the green chlorophyll that has captured sunlight all summer, revealing other pigments, yellows, oranges, and reds, that were present all along but hidden by the chlorophyll's dominance. The leaves eventually fall, reducing water loss during winter when roots cannot draw water from frozen ground. The silence wraps around you gently as you witness this transformation. Everything feels perfectly still despite the profound change occurring. The process is gradual, taking weeks to complete, each tree changing on its own schedule, creating a progression of color that moves across the landscape like a slow wave. There's something deeply peaceful about witnessing this annual cycle, this reminder that change is natural and inevitable, that endings are also beginnings, that life persists through adaptation and transformation. Time flows forward again, and suddenly it's winter. Snow covers the landscape, transforming everything to white and gray and black, simplifying the world to its essentials. The forest that was so lush and green is now bare, branches stark against the sky, yet the scene is not desolate but beautiful in a different way, elegant in its austerity, peaceful in its stillness, quietly waiting for spring's renewal. Snow is one of water's many gifts to Earth, frozen moisture that falls from clouds, each snowflake a unique crystal formed around a tiny particle of dust, its shape determined by temperature and humidity during its journey from cloud to ground. No two snowflakes are identical, yet all follow the same basic six-fold symmetry, a result of the molecular structure of ice and one of nature's many examples of order arising from simple physical laws. Everything feels perfectly still in the winter landscape. Snow absorbs sound, muffling the world, creating a quality of silence that's almost tangible. Animals that don't migrate or hibernate leave tracks in the snow, rabbits, deer, foxes, evidence of continued life in seemingly lifeless conditions. Earth's temperate and polar regions teach lessons about adaptation and persistence, showing that life can thrive even in seasonal extremes, dormant during harsh months but ready to burst forth when conditions improve. Time flows again, and now it's spring. Snow melts, revealing bare earth that quickly greens as plants respond to lengthening days and warming temperatures. Trees bud, flowers emerge, birds return from winter territories farther south, and the whole landscape seems to burst with energy and renewal. Spring in temperate regions happens quickly, a rush of growth and reproduction compressed into a few brief months, making the most of favorable conditions before summer's heat or winter's cold returns. The sight of spring's renewal fills you with peace. The cycle of seasons that plays out across much of Earth's surface, spring, summer, autumn, winter, then spring again, is caused by the planet's axial tilt. Earth rotates around an axis that's tilted 23.5 degrees from perpendicular to its orbital plane, which means that as Earth orbits the Sun, different parts of the planet receive varying amounts of sunlight throughout the year, creating seasons. This tilt also means that while one hemisphere experiences summer, the other experiences winter, balancing the planet in a cosmic dance of light and shadow, warmth and cold. You feel yourself ascending now, rising higher above the Earth's surface, gaining altitude until you can see the curvature of the planet itself, that gentle arc that reminds you that Earth is a sphere, a globe floating in space, neither top nor bottom, no absolute up or down, just a beautiful blue marble suspended in the cosmic void. From this height, you can see weather systems moving across the surface, clouds swirling in vast spirals, the white of storms standing out against the blue of oceans and the brown and green of continents. Earth's atmosphere, that thin layer of gases that makes life possible, extends only about 60 miles above the surface, a mere whisper compared to the planet's 8,000-mile diameter, yet within that thin envelope exists all the weather, all the breathable air, all the conditions necessary for life as we know it. The atmosphere is composed of approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and trace amounts of other gases including carbon dioxide, water vapor, and argon. This precise mixture is maintained by the biosphere, the sum total of all life on Earth, with plants producing oxygen through photosynthesis and consuming carbon dioxide, while animals do the reverse, creating a balance that has persisted for hundreds of millions of years. The silence at this altitude is complete and profound. Everything feels perfectly still, though you can see motion everywhere, clouds moving, the day-night terminator creeping across the surface as the planet rotates, the glint of sunlight on ocean waves. The Earth turns beneath you, completing one rotation every 24 hours, creating our cycle of day and night, giving the entire surface equal access to sunlight over time, distributing the sun's energy evenly. From here, you can appreciate Earth's true nature as a planet, a sphere of rock and metal, mostly molten at its core, covered with a thin crust of solid rock, an even thinner layer of water in its oceans, and the thinnest possible atmosphere. Yet from these simple ingredients, arranged by gravity and energized by sunlight, emerges the complex, beautiful, living world that you've been exploring, with its forests and oceans, mountains and deserts, its countless species of life, and its single species capable of contemplating it all and finding it beautiful. Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old, born from the same nebula of gas and dust that gave birth to our sun and the other planets of the solar system. For the first half-billion years, Earth was a hellish place, bombarded by asteroids, with a surface of molten rock, an atmosphere of toxic gases, no oxygen, no water on the surface, certainly no life. Yet gradually, through processes we're still working to understand, Earth cooled and transformed, water vapor condensed into oceans, the first simple life emerged and began the long process of evolution that would eventually lead to the diversity we see today. Everything feels perfectly still as you contemplate this deep time, this vast history. 4.5 billion years is almost incomprehensible. If you counted one number per second, it would take over 140 years just to count to 4.5 billion. Yet Earth has existed for all that time, has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, volcanic upheavals, mass extinctions, continental drift that has rearranged the surface geography again and again. Through it all, life has persisted, adapted, diversified, creating the living world that now covers the planet in a thin green film. You're floating now in perfect peace, suspended above the Earth, watching as the planet rotates beneath you, day giving way to night, the terminator, the line between light and dark, creeping across continents and oceans, bringing darkness to some regions while dawn awakens others. Somewhere below, the sun is rising, painting skies in shades of pink and gold. Birds are greeting the new day with song. Flowers are opening to greet the morning light. Somewhere else, night is falling. Stars are appearing one by one in darkening skies. Nocturnal animals are emerging from their dens. Humans are preparing for sleep. The cycle continues endlessly. Day following night following day, a rhythm as old as the planet itself, reliable as clockwork, gentle as a lullaby. The silence wraps around you completely now, profound and peaceful. Everything feels perfectly still, though you know that Earth is moving through space at 67,000 miles per hour in its orbit around the Sun, that the Sun itself is moving through the galaxy at almost 500,000 miles per hour, that the galaxy is moving through the universe at millions of miles per hour. Yet none of this motion is perceptible. All you feel is perfect stillness, perfect peace, perfect rest. Let yourself drift now, deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace. The Earth continues turning below you, but you're no longer watching. Your eyes are closed. Your breathing is slow to match the patient rhythm of the planet itself. Each breath is a tide coming in and going out. Each heartbeat is the pulse of the Earth's own core. You are part of this planet, made from its matter, sustained by its resources, connected to every other form of life through the web of relationships that makes the biosphere function. You are not separate from nature, but are nature, a conscious expression of the same atoms that form rocks and trees, clouds and oceans, mountains and valleys. Let yourself drift deeper. The Earth holds you gently, like a parent rocking a child to sleep. You are safe here, cradled in the planet's gravity, protected by its atmosphere, warmed by its sun. Nothing can harm you. Nothing requires your attention. Simply rest. The blue planet turns slowly beneath you, oceans vast and deep, continents ancient and enduring, forests breathing oxygen, rivers flowing to the sea, mountains standing patient and eternal. Everything is in its place. Everything follows the rhythms established billions of years ago. Everything is exactly as it should be, and you are part of it all, connected to everything, at peace with everything. Drift now, deeper. Let the Earth hold you. Let its ancient rhythms lull you to sleep. The ocean's waves are your breathing. The forest's rustling is your heartbeat. The planet's rotation is time itself, patient and endless. Sleep now, drift now. You are home. You are safe. You are one with the Earth and all its wonders. The planet turns, the stars shine, the oceans breathe, and you simply rest, floating in perfect peace, held by gravity, warmed by sunlight, breathing the air, part of the great living system that is Earth. Sleep deeply, peacefully. The Earth has been here for 4.5 billion years. It will be here tomorrow, and all your tomorrows, patient, enduring, home. Rest now. The journey is complete. You've seen mountains and oceans, forests and deserts, islands and rivers, all of Earth's wonders. And now you rest, held gently by the only planet we've ever known, the only place in the universe where everything is just right for life, for breath, for sleep. Drift deeper. The silence is complete. The darkness is warm. The Earth holds you, and you sleep peacefully, perfectly, home.